Coming up on Inside the NRL, the West Tigers have slumped to 1-6, but is coach Michael Maguire really in the firing line? The Broncos lose another young gun as Tom Dearden heads to Townsville. So how does a fed-up Kevin Walters stop the exodus and make Brisbane great again?
It's about us coming together as a people, as a rugby league community, and enjoying the game that we love every week that we get to play.
Enough is enough. Latrell Mitchell takes a stand. And Jayden Brailey joins us as the 10th place Knights strive to return to the top 8 with a win against the Roosters. Hello, welcome to Inside the NRL. A special shout out to all of our viewers, our loyal fans over in the Pacific Islands who join us each and every week for our show. It's great to have you with us. I hope you all enjoyed a special weekend in the NRL. It was Anzac round. I enjoyed every second of it. I was lucky enough to go up to Darwin and watch the Eels beat the Broncos. Jamie Soward joins us once again. You had your first call on 2GB yesterday. You're icing
in recovery mode.
The golden tonsils.
Yeah, in recovery mode. No, it was what a performance to call as well. Tom Treboyevich, the way that he played and Manly played. West Tigers, I know we're going to get to them. They're struggling at the moment, but yeah, it was a pretty good experience.
And Michael Chamis, of course, from the Sydney Morning Herald.
Zachary, we've got one call and he's got people making him a cup of tea before the show.
I know, unbelievable scenes. All right, it's time to get on with the show and find out what left egg on Michael and Jamie's faces. Sowie, over to you.
That photo reminds me of when I was about 15, every single time, going through a certain stage in my life. The Brisbane Broncos. After week one, I backtracked my prediction of them to come last. I don't know why I did that, because they are going to finish last. They're gone. They just don't have any leaders within that group that's standing up. Payne Haas was fantastic. He's the best player, one of the best props in the world, but they just don't get off the back of that. They have no structure in their game plan, and some of the plays they just don't compete on. So I think they're back to finishing last.
We'll talk about the Broncos in a little while, but Michael, what was your moment that left egg on your face?
I'm going to admit that I got it wrong when it comes to the Titans and David Fifita. I said that David Fifita wouldn't be better value than Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, Malawi, and I got it wrong. David Fifita is the better of the two. And $1.2 million well spent. That was unbelievable over the weekend, what he was able to do against South Sydney. Needs to finish the job, though.
Yeah, get the win. Can I get that sent to me? Just in a little clip, just say when he comes up, I can get him.
Yeah, because you said David Fifita is the best signing in Titans history.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all right, the West Tigers, they've slumped to 1-6, and they've hit back at a suggestion made by Michael Chamis in a report yesterday that Michael Maguire is under the pump and potentially facing the axe. They're currently 14th on the ladder. Here's a statement from the club. Contrary to a media report in the Sydney Morning Herald, the West Tigers can deny there is a crisis meeting being held at the club. While they're disappointed with recent results, all at West Tigers remain firmly united and committed to producing a strong and competitive season together and ready to get back into work in preparation for round 8. Michael, you've got a bit of egg on your face this week. Any further updates?
No, look, I stand by what I reported, that Michael Maguire's job is on the line at the West Tigers, and there are people within the club who think that perhaps his time may be up there. Now, of course, I don't think it's going to eventuate to him being sacked this week at this point, the way things are tracking out. He's going to get some time to try and turn things around. However, you can't deny a 19 from 51 record at the West Tigers over 3 years. And the concerning thing for people at the club is he's had 3 years to build a roster, and the roster isn't where it needs to be, and also the performances are going backwards. I think there is elements of that roster that have improved significantly. I think the young guys that the Tigers have signed have made a big impact, the Dane Laurie's and the Stefano Toikamanos. I think in terms of luring big scalps, the leaders, people that you want to build a club around, I don't think there's anyone that they've signed who wasn't looking for a chance. You go through the list. Adam Dewey wasn't going to be in the starting side at South Sydney. You've had James Roberts obviously looking for a final chance. There's a lot of guys there who even Jackson Hastings, he left the NRL, he's looking for a chance as well. So they haven't got the big fish, and until Michael Maguire can land there, I can't see things changing.
Well, let's take a look at the recruits that he has got to the West Tigers over the last couple of years. He made one signing in 2019, and that was Tommy Talau. Since then, the Leilua brothers, you mentioned Michael, Adam Dewey, Zane Musgrove, Asu Kapoa, Sean Bloor, who's been out injured this year, Billy Walters, who wants to head back to Brisbane, James Tamo, Dane Laurie, Joe Offengawi, Stefano Ortoi-Kamanu, James Roberts and Tom Amone. Has their roster got any better, when you look at that?
It's not as easy as what we think. You know, you don't, when you become a coach of a club, you don't get the chance to wipe the whole roster. You've got to manage salary cap, and I think Kevin Walters and the Brisbane Broncos are having that problem now. But, you know, Dane Laurie, Toikamanu, those guys are going to be around for a while. They look like they've got a Gooden and Simpkins, so there is some bright lights there amongst the doom and gloom. But my question back to you is, and probably to everyone, is who a senior player doesn't just fall off a tree to go to a club. You know, there's guys out there that want to win competitions, that want to be competitive, so they'll take that less money. So they're not. It's not like they're not trying. Every club wants to try and get them there, but they just haven't succeeded in probably bringing enough of those the next wave through. You know, they had the big four that they brought through. Since then, they haven't brought the next big four through, or the next, you know, couple of players that we've gone, right, that's where the future is at the moment. I think personally they need to make a decision on the 7. It just needs to happen, whether it's Jock Madden or Luke Brooks, because Adam Doueihi is having a great season and that's holding them back. Doueihi stays on the right-hand side of the field, doesn't get across to touch the ball on the left-hand side. Whether they like playing together or not, it doesn't look like they do to me. They need to make a decision on who's going to be the centrepiece that they build around, because they've got a fullback, they look like they've got a hooker, they've got one half in Doueihi. You know, they need to realise who they pair, because if you pair Adam Reynolds with Adam Doueihi, yeah, that's now you're starting to cook. You can get some guys in position, but the halves is a problem for me.
Do they have the money to sign someone like Adam Reynolds?
Well, they have $600,000 still in the cap remaining this year that they haven't spent. The problem is, and I've said this to Michael Maguire over the off-season, I sat down with him for a coffee, is there's a perception out there from players that they don't want to come to the West Tigers and play under him. Whether that's right or wrong, he can't escape a perception that he overworks players. Now, I know that Michael Maguire is working tirelessly to turn that around, but he can't escape that. And it's the proof is in the pudding. They haven't signed a big-name player that they can try and build a club around. Now, as Sowie said, the one guy's not on that list that you showed earlier, because he's obviously not a recruit, but Michael Maguire re-signed Luke Brooks. He's on $800,000 or $900,000, and he's their number 7. He's got 2 more years left. Like, I know they've blamed people in the past, and rightly so. The decisions of Kelly Egan and Ivan Cleary in the past have put the club in a difficult situation. But the coach that is there now, he re-signed Luke Brooks. And now we're at the point, I will be stunned if Luke Brooks is at the club beyond this year. And that's another error from the current crop in the coaching staff.
You mentioned that Michael Maguire has time. How much time does he have?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Season?
He's got those 5 games. If we can get those up again, they've got Dragons twice, so hopefully not in the next month they turn it around. But yeah,
Titans and Knights.
Yeah, they've got Dragons twice, Titans, Knights, Warriors. Yeah. Like winnable games.
That's the thing.
How many out of the 5 does he have to win to save his job?
Oh, I think the next couple of weeks are crucial, because reality is they should be competing.
1 out of the next 2?
They should be competing, if not winning, all those games. Okay, and if they don't go down that path, then we're going to see what happens with the players. And this is the thing: how the players respond to this is going to dictate what happens. Because if they give up now and say, you know what, it's the coach's fault. But we've seen this before. When the coach is on the pressure, some people give up. We'll see what happens with the players.
Just quickly, when they got scored on yesterday, they had 13 people behind the line that weren't talking to each other. When James Tarmow's off the field, I know they brought him there to be a leader. They haven't groomed the next leader through, so that squad's struggling for leadership at the moment.
That's 4 years in the making. They selected Moses Mbye as captain 3 or 4 years ago, and Moses admits he was never a captain. They've had time to try and get one or develop one, and they're still in that same point.
All right, from one struggling team to another, the Brisbane Broncos. Tom Dearden has become the latest Bronco to confirm he is leaving the club, signing a 3-year deal with the Cowboys starting next year. Sowie, they've lost Dave Fafita. We saw Reese Walsh debut last night. They're losing Tom Dearden, who many said he should be the player the club builds its future around. How worrying is this, that this exodus continues after so many kids during your generation wanted to play for the Broncos?
Yeah, I played with Darius Boyd, and speaking to Darius this week, although he had time at Newcastle and the Dragons, he was always a Bronco and wanted to be a Bronco. And you hear about the passion of young kids in Queensland wanting to pull on that Broncos jersey. I haven't heard a kid say that for a long, long time. Something's gone wrong up there with the retention and recruitment and getting the right people in to help sustain a successful club. And we know that it's not easy. We just talked about the Tigers, but you let Reese Walsh go, who last night down in Melbourne, it took me 12 years to get a try assist down in Melbourne. He had 2 in his first game. Dave Fafita, well, that speaks for itself. How do you let that walk, not to another club in Sydney, down the road? Yeah, that's the big one for me. So you pair that with, if you got those two guys and you moved Anthony Milford. See, you talk about big contracts. Anthony Milford got that big contract. I don't think anyone would ever begrudge me and say, I don't know if he was ever worth $1 million, even at the height of his powers. And clubs, they've been locked into that deal and sort of tied their bow to him for their success, and it hasn't come through. So, yeah, it's puzzling to see, what's going on up there. I know Steve Renouf, spoke pretty passionately about it, and it's hard not to agree with him.
Let's get the tweet up. This is from Broncos legend Steve Renouf, who has taken aim at the recruitment of the Brisbane Broncos on Twitter. He said, unfortunately, this group of boys should never have been brought together. They are like a schoolboys team. It's not their fault. Bad recruiting. When will the recruitment side of the Brisbane Broncos be held accountable? Is it as dire as that?
I've spoken to two former coaches, and not Anthony Seibold, who worked for NRL.com, but two other coaches outside that have said that same thing to me, that it looks like you've gone to a school carnival and you've gone, right, you, and you're going to come and play together a merit team, and then we're just going to see what happens. They've got the biggest, the fastest, but they haven't got any guys, they haven't got any thinkers, they haven't got any workers. They've just paid all the best kids up there, got them all into a team and said, righto kids, go out and do your best. And they're getting rissoled by everyone who's actually put teams together. Look at Parramatta on the weekend.
But do you think they're in this position, Sowie, because they've put the kids together? They obviously have some talent, but they paid their hamstrung what they can do in the salary cap because they paid so much money for guys who haven't delivered, i.e. Matt Lodge.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, no one's going to disagree with that. You get a big contract, you have to deliver, but I would even say further, you're playing guys out of position. Jermaine Asako looks like he could be one of the best wingers in the world. He's playing fullback. Yeah, that to me doesn't wash. They've tried. They've got Danny Levi up there. They've got David Mead back. Like, where's this next crop of juniors? When Wayne Bennett was there in 2018 when he got sacked, they had the best next forward pack. Gordon Tallis was talking about it. We're all talking about it. Where's that gone? They've left. They don't want to play for him anymore. Yeah,
from the outside, it looks like there's plenty of issues up there, especially if you're a young half and you don't want to play under Kevin Walters and Alfie Langer.
Well, it's not that. It's you don't want to play in a team that's going to be losing every week.
But Tom Dearden's gone to the Cowboys. He sees more promise.
Tom Dearden looks stressed every time he takes the field. I think that I don't know Tom Dearden. I think he's the start to the season, the indecisiveness on him playing a halfback and sitting on the bench, I think that contributed to his decision to go north.
All right, from Brisbane to the Hunter region, the Knights went down to the Panthers in round 7, but they were gallant in defeat. We're now lucky enough to be joined by their co-captain, Jayden Brailey. Jayden, thanks so much for joining us on Inside the NRL. You stuck it with the best team in the league for the opening 60 minutes, but you fell away late. So what was the mood like after the match in the Sheds? Was it a positive one or a negative one?
Yeah, it was obviously a little bit of disappointment at first. Obviously not coming away with the result, but Adam told us, we can hold our heads high. We played pretty tough, gritty style of football, and we stuck it to the Panthers for the majority of the 80 minutes. So I think we can take a lot of confidence out of it and hopefully get a result pretty soon.
Jayden, is there a sense of frustration, mate? I look at that roster at the Knights and you think that's a fringe top 4 team, if not you're in the top 4, but since you've been at the club, you've barely had a game with your best 17 on the paddock.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating at times, but for as long as, I've been in the NRL, it's very rarely that you're able to string, your strongest 17 on the park week after week. So injuries are just part and parcel of the game. We expect whoever jumps in there and fills in for those missing positions that they do a job. But yeah, it can be frustrating at times that we haven't got our big guns out there every week.
Jayden, I watched the game on the weekend. I actually felt like you turned a corner in your competitiveness. There's something that wasn't there against the Gold Coast Titans. Do you feel like that if you can just tread water enough and then start to get some troops back, that you can still make the 8?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think on the difference with last Thursday was our attitude in defence. I know they ended up scoring 24 points, but up until that 70th minute, I think it was only 12-6. So to be able to keep probably the best attacking team in the Panthers out for that long, I thought it really showed a lot of us turning a corner, like you said. And I think if we tweak a few things here and there in attack and play a bit smarter, I think a win isn't too far away.
Jayden, in your new role as captain, does that frustrate you that you can compete so hard against Penrith with so many attacking weapons, but the week before you got blokes taking a tap 10 metres out and running over and scoring a try?
Yeah, consistency is a big thing for us that we wanted to improve this year, and it's a big part of being a successful NRL team, I believe. You know, you've got to be consistent week after week, and a big part of that is our defence. And as I said, I think last Thursday we're a lot better, but we've got to do that consistently and have that same attitude week after week. And but yeah, I do think that we'll turn that corner.
Jayden, you're currently 10th. You take on the Roosters in a huge match on Saturday night at home. Then you hit the road to take on the Raiders in Wagga, and they're up against it at the moment. How important is this game in the context of your season and your ambitions to finish in the top 8?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I've got another quality side in the Roosters coming up here this weekend, so it doesn't get any easier. And, you know, we've got a pretty tough run coming up. So I think the biggest thing with this weekend, you know, we're back at home, and I think we've dropped 2 games this year at home, and you know, we want to play really well in front of our home fans and get a result for them.
Jayden, I have to ask you about Kalyn Ponga. Have you ever played with someone who has such a big influence on a game like he does?
Yeah, he's outstanding. I love playing football with Kay. We missed him to start the season, and he just brings so much to our attack, you know, and our defence as well. He's the one getting our numbers right that a lot of people probably don't see. And, you know, we all see what he does with the football. And I feel like, especially last week against Cronulla, he really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and got us that win. So it's really good to have him back. And the longer he's on the park, you know, the better chance we are to win.
Jayden, I was going to ask another question, but Michael wants to ask another question about Kalyn Ponga. Can you do that, mate? He's a big Kalyn Ponga man. No, seriously, mate, how have you liked the captaincy? Is it something that's sat comfortably with you? I mean, being a leader on field, I like what you did at the Sharks, but you look like you've grown into that?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think I've been able to experience a lot of different things in my first 7 games. You know, we've won tight games and we've lost tight games, but you know, we've also had a tough game up against the Titans the other week. So I've been able to juggle a few different things, and but I'm pretty lucky as well. You know, I've got some good people around me. Obviously, DSAF is a co-captain, but Blake Green as well, who's captain a couple of clubs, and it's not just on me. And there's a lot of guys at the club helping me out. And but yeah, you know, I'm really enjoying the opportunity. It's something I take with great privilege, and it's a big honour as well. So. Yeah, it's something I'm going into and just enjoying at the same time.
Jayden, how's your brother hanging in there given the drama unfolding at Cronulla, mate?
Yeah, he's going all right. I haven't really spoken to him a whole lot about what's gone on over the last few weeks, but he's just been focusing on his football, and I think he's been playing some really good football for Cronulla, and obviously got one up on him last week up in Newcastle, which was nice, but yeah, I haven't really gone into details with what's going on down at the Sharks.
Jayden, sadly you ruptured your ACL just before the comp was suspended last year, and you've come back to a host of new rules. The game's never been faster. How have you found it coming off the most serious injury you've ever suffered?
Yeah, I was pretty excited to try the new rules out, obviously, coming into this season. I didn't get the chance to play under them last year in season 2020, and I really enjoy it. I feel like, obviously, the game's a lot faster, and in defence, I feel like I'm under the pump a little bit more. But I can feel that I get a lot more opportunities in attack, and allows me to get out and run the football. And I'm going in the games with that mindset to run the football as well. So I'm still getting used to it at the same time. But yeah, I am really enjoying it, and yeah, trying to adapt my game to suit the rules.
Jayden, thank you so much for joining us on Inside the NRL. Good luck this Saturday night against the Roosters at home.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. And
to any footy fans, Roosters fans, Knights fans that want to get along to that match, make sure you do so. Head to nrl.com/tickets to grab yours today. Well, Latrell Mitchell has spoken today after 2 men were charged after allegedly racially vilifying him across social media. Here's what the star fullback had to say.
I've been copping this all my life since an 8-year-old kid, you know. My ancestors before me have, and you know, nothing's changing. So, you know, I've always aired them out on social media, as anyone's seen, and showing them airtime, and I think that's what they sort of wanted to get a kick out of, and I was sort of just wasting my energy by doing that, and I just, you know, I grew up and matured a little bit through that period, and I said that enough is enough. I've set the standard for, you know, the general public to go, right, if you see it, call it out now, and I just think now, With these two messages, for instance, I just said I had enough. Like, it's an outcome that I've wanted for a very long time, for people to be accountable for their actions and their words, and just for you to sit there and comment on a game. It's just a game of rugby league, but this happens in everyday society, and I just want people to know that you have to call it out. It's enough now. Times have changed, and we've got to change this for everyone. It's about being a community together and coming together, and not even, it's about that divide. I'm not even going about Aboriginal and non-Indigenous, do you know what I mean? It's about us coming together as a people, as a rugby league community, and enjoying the game that we love every week that we get to play. We as rugby league players are here to do a job, enjoy ourselves, and provide for our families. And to receive all that hate, I know it comes with the game, but it shouldn't be in our game.
Very well said, Latrell Mitchell. You have our support, and hopefully all the bullies and online trials stop.
That's just the most... Latrell's grown into a real leader within the game. I've loved his transition across. He copped a lot of flack about the Roosters' transitions and all that kind of stuff, and he's going into fullback, but away from the game, he's turned into a real leader and a real mentor for a lot of young people out there.
Now, you're a proud Indigenous man. You put your neck out on Twitter a fair bit. You cop it a fair bit.
Yep.
Do you think this will help stop, knowing that people out there will know that they can be criminally charged if you abuse someone online?
Yeah, it will a little bit, but the NRL players probably expect it now. Not that we should have to put up with it, or they should have to put up with it, but you probably expect it to a little bit. But I think about the 12 to 16-year-old kids that are watching our show that are thinking, well, if Latrell Mitchell can call someone out, so can I. I don't have to hide it or pretend that I'm soft or dobbing someone in. That you can call someone out and we can do something about it. So I think it's fantastic, and Latrell's growing into... You can see the father protective side coming out in him, and I love listening to that kind of stuff from Latrell.
Michael, when you look back 3 or 4 years, did you ever think at 23 Latrell would be speaking so openly and publicly about this?
No, I actually think he's probably done more than anyone else in the past. You've obviously... I can't imagine what you've been through throughout your career, not just racial vilification, but also just abuse from fans or fans of other teams. How tough would that have been on Latrell to actually do what he... I imagine there would have been days where he thought to himself, you know what, this is not my fight.
Yeah. Well, and that's what a lot of people think. This is not my fight. I copped some social abuse the other week and sent it to you guys, and it's just let you know that it still happens even to me. I'm a nuffy. So, I think it's great Latrell leading the way, and it's nice to see him get a result too.
You're selling yourself short. You're not a nuffy.
Yes, he is.
I'm a nuffy. Time to move on to this week's Casualty Award, brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. And we'll start with the biggest names struck down in Anzac round. James Tedesco, Alex Glenn, Joey Leilua, Matt Moylan, Jordan McLean, Tohu Harris, David Fusatua and Vida Totola. Of course, Will Smith, George Jennings, Chris Smith, Matt Dury, Patrick Herbert and Sam Lasoni also in our casualty ward. Now, here's an update on some other players who were injured in previous weeks. Craig Bellamy gave an update and said that Ryan Pappenhausen could miss 2 to 3 weeks with a shoulder injury, which is bad news for them. Ryan Madison returned in the knock-on effect cup yesterday, so he's free to play this week. Wanga Blake, Api Coruscant and Ben Hunt. Now, obviously, James Tedesco headed up that list after he was hit by Jordan Pereira high in that Anzac Day match yesterday, and it sparked this response from Roosters coach Trent Robinson.
We don't need the judiciary to teach them lessons. We need the on-field refs. So mothers and parents and that are at home understand that the punishment happens right then and there. It's right there in the moment. Not on a Tuesday night. They don't watch Tuesday night. They watch in that game. They need to get their lessons on field about how to get down, how to get lower, and get your tackle tech in a better position, because you'll punish your team on that night. We can choose 17 players the following week. But if you get down to 12 players on that field versus 13 because you're just a bit loose with your tackling and you're copping guys hard and high, then they need to be down to 12. That's when we'll get our real lessons, and that's when we'll get people knowing that we're serious about it.
And I think we're at a point now in the game where everyone needs to accept that contact with the head and neck is just no longer acceptable. And there needs to be a bit of a reset. There needs to be a bit of a expectation reset by players, by clubs, by the media, by the fans generally.
All right, so Trent Robinson's stance was strong. That was Graham Annesley speaking this afternoon in response to that, and the game clearly isn't mucking around either, Sowie. First with Robbo's response, is it time for the game to come down even harder on foul play on field?
Yeah, I think the problem with that, I love listening to Trent Robinson speak. The problem with that is different referees are going to have different interpretations of what it looks like as well. So if you're consistent across the board and you're going to have a guy sent off, then that's fine. But week to week, there's different situations where people go to the bin that don't go to the bin one week. And when we're here talking about Latrell Mitchell and what that looked like and why he didn't go to the sin bin but gets 4-week suspension. So I think there's a fine line there, and we don't want it to get into murky waters where someone gets sent off in one game and doesn't in another.
But Robbo's stance saying that not everyone is watching Tuesday night. Mothers and kids, they're watching the game. That more has to be done during the game to deter.
I get that, but not if one referee sends someone off right there at the moment. The other referee might not do that. So you're not going to get that consistency. So you can't just bring in a blanket rule. I know that Graham Annesley spoke about Chamis, but do you agree that one referee might say, OK, Jordan Pereira won 10 in the bin, one guy might say sent off?
No, I agree. It's going to be open to interpretation. But then there's a responsibility, as Graham Annesley pointed out, for people in the game, like someone like Wayne Bennett, who last week came out and criticised the judiciary for what happened to Latrell Mitchell, he getting his 4 weeks. That flies in the face of what the NRL is trying to do, what Trent Robinson is saying there. I get the NRL, what they're trying to say, because I think we've got a real problem now, because Tedesco's now had 3 head knocks in
10 months.
10 months, and we run the risk now of rubbing our players out of the game for good, because the standards around head knocks is so different to what it was when you were playing for what it was 10, 20 years ago, that the best players in the game, after a few knocks, we may never see them again, because we have got guys who don't understand the significance going forward of what they are doing with these high tackles. So if you're going to start sin binning them, Robbo's right, you're going to get to the point where, well, we may miss a few more tackles, but we're not going to creep high.
All right, on a much lighter note, you can play NRL Pick'em Weekly 4 for a chance at $100,000 this week. I'll tell you which matchups are part of the 4 this week. We've got the Broncos and Titans on Friday night, the Knights and Broncos on Knights and Roosters rather on Saturday, the Warriors, Cowboys and the West Tigers, Dragons on Sunday. Pick the correct margin for each of the 4 games and you'll share the spoils. Head to nrl.com/pick'em now. All right, it's now time for Hit or Miss. Benji Marshall inspired the Rabbitohs to a come-from-behind victory against the Titans in round 7, and I saw this thread on Twitter. So Gus Gould has responded to a question asking whether he should be considered for immortal status. Phil Gould said he's an immortal whether they give it to him or not. So my question, or my statement to you, Sowie, Benji Marshall should be an immortal.
Yes, I think so, but I don't know if they'll give it to him, as Gus said. I just don't want to get to the point where we've got 50 immortals. The class, or the current class now, you talk about Lockyer, Freddie, Slater, Thurston, Smith, and then Cronk. So I don't know how many of those guys are actually going to get into the next wave. Plus, that's just this era. That's not talking about the older era that the players go in. So I think that he's been New Zealand's greatest ever player. There's no questioning that. But I don't want 50 of them.
So is it a hit?
Hit.
Thank you. Well, you just said the opposite. It's a miss, isn't it?
Hit.
Hit. He should be an immortal. You just said you don't want 50 of them.
He should be immortal, but he won't be.
Okay, so you just sat on the fence.
Yeah.
Okay, I might sit on the fence. No, I'm going to say miss. I'm going to say, and there's no disrespect to Benji, I think he's, in this generation of what we've seen, probably ranked 4 behind Cam, JT, Billy, and then Benji. I just don't see how they fit all of them in, given the criteria at the moment that Benji gets in.
All right, Tom Treboyevich has been incredible since he returned from a hamstring injury 2 weeks ago. Andrew Johns, he's an immortal, and he threw out an interesting suggestion. He said Turbo as a 5/8 would be out of this world. You let Nathan Cleary do it all. He organises everything, and then you take Turbo as a running 5/8. So Tom Treboyevich should be the Blues 5/8 for the upcoming State of Origin series. Michael.
Mate, you deserve a hit for asking me what I think of the immortal's thoughts on a 5/8. What am I going to say if Andrew Johns thinks he's going to be 5/8?
None of this.
Go with Andrew Johns.
So you say hit?
I think it's disrespectful that you're asking me.
You're saying hit?
I'm not going to go against Joey.
You're saying hit?
No, I think you need a hit. To the arms, not the head, obviously. I think... No, You're going to make me say miss, aren't you? I just think Jerome Luai needs to be the 6 with Nathan Cleary, and Tom's in the centre/wing.
Okay, so it's a miss. He won't be 5'8". Thank you.
He won't be 5'8", miss.
What?
But I just think that Freddie will have to go for a combination, I feel, and as good as Tom was yesterday, I mean, he could play 6, there's no doubt about that, but I could see him in the centres or wing, and going in the wing, he doesn't have to organise everything as well. He can go in and float in. I think that New South Wales missed that last year. They missed that big body to come in and relieve the pressure, and plus that combination with Jake and Heaton through the middle. Is there a happier bloke in the world than Tom Treboyevich is playing than Jake? He runs out. He ran out there with a smile on his face yesterday. The ball hadn't even been kicked off, and he looked across and Tommy's there, and he was that happy. Before he was just trudging out, going, "I've got to make 1,000 tackles, run for 600 hit-ups, and then just sit in the sheds." Now it's like Tommy's back. Giddy up.
Yeah, he just goes, "Oh, there you go, Tommy. Do all the hard
He
work."
scored the try, and Tommy ran off. Jake ran off and was like, "How good's this, boys?" Tommy's back.
All right, this time a week ago, the man directly to my right made this bold prediction.
If they lose this weekend to the Cowboys, they may miss the 8. That's where I'm concerned with them.
So that, of course, was regarding the Canberra Raiders. So the Canberra Raiders will miss the top 8 in season 2021.
Hit.
Of course, you have to say hit. Why? You've gone through their matches.
Yeah, I have gone. I think they've only got. I mean, they could turn it around quickly. Ricky Stewart's got that mentality, us against the world, and they could buy into that. But this play right here before half-time typified the Raiders this year. They've gone back to the style. They fought so hard to get away from that, beat you 26-24, and be defensively sound, and then beat you 12-10 with their attack and grittiness. They've gone away from that. They let that soft try in. I know there was a dubious call there with the offside, but yeah, I think they miss. I just can't see it. They'll probably end up making it and beat the bottom sides because they've got a few of those games, but their style, I just don't know their style. I can't see it. They don't. A championship team doesn't leak 26 points after leading 24-6.
Chamis, last week you said they'll make the 8.
Yeah, I'm sticking by it. I think that I had them at the start of the year in 6th. I still think they're 6 to 8 mark. I think they're in the finals. I don't think there are good enough teams below them to kick them out.
All right, the Warriors should be able to host their annual Anzac Day match against the Storm at home every second year. They've never done it.
Hit.
Yeah, I'll go with 7.
Well, you've got to give them a chance. I mean, imagine how... I never won down in Melbourne 12 years. Imagine Reese Walsh last night turning up.
I think they'll be happy for any game in New Zealand at the moment, let alone...
Yeah, but it
would be special to be
It would
over
be
there.
special. That's special down there as it is, but I'm sure the Storm probably don't want to give up the home game, but yeah, they should be able to host it. Dragons and Roosters share 1 for 1.
Yep, hit. Across the board. Well played. All right, it's now time for Champ or Chump. Sowie, it's your week.
It is my week. I'm going to go with the champ first, and that's going to be Adam Reynolds and his little dig at Wayne Bennett during the press conference. Have a listen.
Is it true you only go to the movies on Cheap Tuesday, Wayne?
That's true, mate. I can't afford it. I'm coaching South Sydney, I don't get overpaid.
Are we any closer to seeing whether Adam Reynolds is going to stay?
So what of that cheeky little dig there, just looking after his halfback.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It is.
Showing the relationship they have.
Did you ever do that to him?
To Wayne?
Yeah.
Were you brave enough?
Take him to the movies.
Take him to the movies, no.
What, get him pop?
Yeah, get-
What?
no,
Oh,
get
mate,
in there and
he's
ask
a
a
player's
question.
coach. He's a player's coach. I don't
Sowie
think...
was used to taking him to Grappa for lunch. That's more your
Grappa,
style.
I don't even know where Grappa is.
Wayne
is that
knows.
in Australia? Wayne knows.
Your chump.
My chump this week is Hamoli Oluwakatu, the big Aaron Woods dive. This is yesterday after they scored 3 tries in about 7 minutes. Just watch this. Oh, now he could be out for 3 weeks if he gets his neck wrong there. So just be careful there, Hamoli.
Nearly took out Tommy as well. That would have been a disaster.
I know, and you can't be doing that to the $1 million man.
You know,
so.
that wasn't the only time that he went through the pack after a try as well.
Oh, really? He did it
Yesterday,
again?
and I think he was taking the Mickey a little bit here. He just goes, oh, there we go.
Oh.
That was later in the game.
What about Cade Cust? No, thank you. Look at that. Oh, no, sorry, mate. What are you doing? Jason Saab went after him.
From a loose Superman dive, my champ of the week, tears all round in the Bulldogs on the sideline anyway for Coach Trent Barrett. This just shows how much that win meant to him after doing it so tough early on in his tenure.
Yeah, agree. And great scenes. He would know more than ever that will mean nothing if they turn up and get pumped this weekend against Parramatta. Yeah, that's the platform now. They competed really hard. They were desperate at the end of the game, and it was great to see those things. But it's a week-to-week proposition, so they need to turn up again this week.
I just like the fact that he could let his emotions run free and just got.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was great.
That's why the
Thought
players,
it was my
that's
week.
why the players love him, mate. The players absolutely love everyone at Manly and everyone at Canterbury couldn't speak more highly. Even Penrith couldn't speak more highly of Trent Barrett.
Okay, all right. Don't forget to tune in to NRL teams tomorrow afternoon. Neve Owens, Brett Camorley, Robbie Farah in the hot seat from 3:55 p.m. The teams will drop at 4, so they'll have all the latest news heading into round 8 of the NRL Telstra Premiership. Michael, Jamie, as always, thank you for joining us this week. It's been a big week in rugby league circles. Hopefully you can join us for all the fun next Monday right here on Inside the NRL.